All right, before I get into what is yet again going to be another negative video about NASCAR officiating, I want to get some positives out of the way first and just say that straight up, that race at New Hampshire was freaking awesome outside of what we're going to talk about today. I loved it, and I love seeing Aric Almirola get the win. He's an awesome dude, and I love seeing him get something good after having such a horrible season so far. All right, that's the good. Now, let's get into the bad. Unfortunately, once again, a great NASCAR race will have some egg thrown on its face and NASCAR's face overall because of horrible officiating calls. But I'm not just going to go over this one, because these instances on their own, while bad, are excusable. The problem is this stuff is constantly happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to about the middle of the playoffs last year and then come back forward to now. I want to show just how bad NASCAR officiating has been in the last half season, maybe 3/4 of a season if you combine it all. I want to show just how bad it's been because I think what we saw during the Cup race was just a symptom of a worse problem. So let's get into it. Let's go back to 2020. The Roval is a really, really popular track, but there was one race, while really fun to watch, that probably in hindsight is really stupid to have been put on. That race being the Xfinity race, where NASCAR basically had them race through a monsoon. And like I said, I'll be real, at the time I thought it was funny as hell seeing these cars slip and slide away, but in hindsight, this was the start of a much worse problem. It was crazy. But like I said, there was low visibility the entire time. Traction was at a minimum, if there at all, even with rain tires. And like I said, hindsight being 2020, no pun intended, we probably, as fans, shouldn't have been cheering this on as much because it makes us look like massive hypocrites today. But okay, that's one. That's excusable. We can move past that one. It's a mistake. NASCAR's new to road course racing and racing in the rain and having weather be imminent. But then that doesn't say much for what happened at Texas. In 2020, in the playoff race at Texas, NASCAR had a big decision to make. Weather was impending on the track. There was no doubt it was going to get hit by rain, and as we found out later, it took about 3 days to finally get the full race in. Well, NASCAR tries to push it, trying to get as much of the race in as possible. A 500-mile race at Texas. They let them go under a restart, and there's a little bit of mist on the camera. But it's played off. It's just mist. It's not rain. The track isn't too slippery. And then they go into 1 and 2. Drivers start washing up the track, and Kevin Harvick slams into the wall. This ruins his day. It, in all respects, is what costs him a shot at a championship. He ends up missing the Final Four after an astoundingly stellar year and doesn't even get a shot at the championship. Only a few points. Had Harvick just finished on the lead lap at Texas, which, seeing how good he was in 2020 and how the week before at a 1.5 mile track, he was up front most of the day, I think he would have done that. Had he done that, he makes the Final Four, and yeah, he didn't perform, but who knows how he does if that entire team is pulling around the 4 car. Okay, but that stuff's 2020. Move on, let's get to 2021. Does anyone remember the Daytona road course race? I sure do. I thought it was all right at first, but everyone remembers it for the craziness of the last 10 to 15 laps. But what caused that craziness is where the controversy is. Now, I will say this right now. I was not there, so it could have been worse than I saw on TV. I fully want to put that out there. But there's conflicting reports all around at the rain. There's some people that say, yeah, dude, it was raining there. There's a real reason they threw a caution. I respect that. On the other hand, there's people, for instance, like Dave Moody, who had said on air it wasn't raining. And then on top of that, you have to also remember, this is at a road course where they can just come down pit road if they so choose and put on rain tires. I mean, hell, they literally gave them that option at COTA before the race and during the race. So it's not like this is something foreign to NASCAR that they're not going to come up against again. Well, because of this, Chase Elliott loses what is almost surely a win. And while I'm not the biggest Chase Elliott fan, I can say that it really sucks seeing somebody basically cheated out of victory. Well, let's fast forward to another new track, the 2021 Bristol Dirt Races. The Cup race got rained out, so there was really nothing there. You could talk about the low visibility, but at the same time, most of the time it worked out pretty well. There was like 1 or 2 wrecks, but the drivers did a very good job on that. But people don't remember as much the truck heat races that were going to set the field, or the one that barely ran. The track was soaked. It was an absolute mud pit. NASCAR, with it still kind of drizzling out, decides, let them go out there, let them race. And it's awful. The entire thing is a complete joke. You have grills completely full of mud all over the windshield to the point where the teams can't even get the tear-offs off of the windshield, and NASCAR has to end up calling it anyway, and it doesn't even count. Pretty big embarrassment. Once again, this is the 4th instance in combined the last 18 race weekends that something happens. And this isn't just getting into the big bad stuff of NASCAR's officiating. Let's get to COTA. Circuit of the Americas, for me, was a really fun weekend. Being there, I can tell you, it sucked being in the rain. But it was cool seeing a rain race. And I'll admit, I was fully entertained. But when it started to pick up, NASCAR made another fatal flaw. With basically no visibility out there, and spotters not even having the best visibility, NASCAR just kept letting them race. They let them race. There was crashes, there was cautions, there was spins, and then it went too far. NASCAR, with the drivers having no visibility out there, once again let them line up for a restart. And we had this nasty crash with Cole Custer and Martin Truex Jr., something that we shouldn't have even had the opportunity to have. NASCAR at that point then starts wisening up to it, and at the end of the day does make the right call, calling the race at the end when visibility is just getting worse and worse and there's no chance of it getting better. Again, this is another one where you're leading to drivers being in unnecessary danger. Yes, I know, people have told me, I've said it too, racing is inherently dangerous. And with that there, you always have to respect it. But in this instance, I don't think NASCAR is respecting the danger and the added danger that their drivers are being put in. So there's a 5th instance. Well, let's go back down to the truck series. For once, we're not going to even discuss weather in this video with it. We have a clean and pristine night at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Well, coming out of turn 4, there's a truck that wrecks or had a flat tire. I can't remember, so I apologize for that. But he comes out slow. No steering, absolutely pancake the truck. They don't call a caution. 2 trucks come out of the corner, and Johnny Sauter has half of his truck ripped off of the rest of it. Horrible crash, nasty wreck. Again, unnecessary danger when NASCAR could have called the caution when this truck hit the wall in turn 4 and even in turn 3. NASCAR says that the reason this massive, dangerous wreck happened was because it was a bad angle for their spotters. That is absolutely unacceptable, in my opinion. And it put drivers at unnecessary risk again. And then we get to New Hampshire. I think this one, personally, outside of COTA with the wreck with Truex and Custer, I think this one is the worst one. Listen, before the race, it was raining. As much as I'm a proponent of noon starts, this wasn't gonna help. All right, noon starts would not have helped the situation. I'm just gonna say that right now. But there were other telltale signs that NASCAR just needed to delay this race and have the start be later in the day. It was raining as they fired the engines. From people I know who were there, they were saying, yeah, it started misting and then started having a light rain once they fired the engines. NASCAR's spotters notified them in turn 1 that it was raining, that the track was wet, and NASCAR, in response, said 1 to go. They went green with it, knowing the track was wet. Well, Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr., they paid the ultimate price with it. They wreck right away. Kyle Busch's day, done. Starts from the pole, doesn't even get to run 10 laps on the day, and he's done. Unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. The fact that only really 3 or 4 cars got involved and only 1 car had significant enough damage to get out of the race is a miracle, and it shows how good these drivers are. But here's the thing. This wasn't the only time in the race there was a questionable call by the officiating crew. Now, if you watched the race or listened to it yesterday, you know for a fact that NASCAR ended the race 8 laps early. There was darkness impending. I get that 100%. But there's a little bit of controversy here because it seems like members from NASCAR even kind of admitted that, yeah, they could have probably raced out those last 8 laps. Because the reasoning they gave is that they called it early because it looked darker and they couldn't see the cars well because of the tinted windows at New Hampshire Motor Speedway in the booth that they had. This is where I'm starting to grow frustration here. Because most people from all accounts said they could have run those last couple laps. What NASCAR right now is screwing up on is the fundamentals. This is like a basketball player trying to make half-court shots when he doesn't even know how to dribble yet. This is something that you need to have down, a clear-cut procedure that, hey, if this is going to happen, we call the caution here. If not, we do this. We're going the distance unless this weird circumstance. I get that New Hampshire doesn't have light, so you're kind of put in a box, and NASCAR was put in a box. We need to give them that at least. But when you corner yourself like that, letting stupid things like tinted windows get in the way, that's where I as a fan start growing in frustration. And this is all adding on with everything else. I don't want to complain about this. That race yesterday was probably the best race of the year, but this is something that needs to be addressed, and NASCAR needs to change it. I don't know how, but they need to be held accountable. Now, I want to ask you, am I overreacting with all this? Because if I am, let me know. Give me a reality check here. Because I just see this building up over time, and NASCAR seems to never learn from its mistakes. So let me know your thoughts on all of it in the comments below. While we're at it, leave a like in this video, share this video, subscribe to my channel for more NASCAR content like this throughout the week. Also, if you want to join the channel memberships options to help the channel out, it's always there for you. So until next time, have a good one.